ESG. All companies right now should be looking into ESG initiatives, how they can implement them into their companies and drive change. Why? There are so many benefits of putting ESG initiatives. The one at the top, of course, is your tax incentives. Then there's also that reputation and brand loyalty. It attracts new talent. It attracts investors. There's a plethora of reasons why companies are looking into ESG initiatives. And this is why I invited my guest today. My guest today is Jackie Kingsley. She is the Senior Director of ESG at a global distribution company. She set up their ESG initiatives. She is getting her employees all involved and wanting to learn more. But before we get started, my name is Donna Peterson, and you are listening to the B2B Marketing Excellence podcast. I go all over the world to speak with industry leaders, marketing directors about their industries, about their marketing, what's working, what's not, so that you can get insights to implement right away to help your company grow. So let's jump in. Hi, Jackie. How are you today?
Hello, Donna. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Like I said, ESG is such a hot topic, and you are, I think, an expert in this field. And I think you're going to be able to give a lot of insights to the listeners.
Yes, absolutely. I'm an engineer by trade. I have my master's in engineering, and I've delved into the world of ESG, which stands for environmental social governance. And over the last couple of years, doing a lot of reading, and really I'm self-taught. It's complicated, but I do feel like I have my bearings now enough to offer how to improve your environmental footprint, how to look at ESG in total, because it's about safety and diversity and ethics and running a business in an ethical way. So it's really those non-financial kind of metrics and considerations that are becoming more and more important, as you said, to investors, to employers, to employees, to customers.
Yes.
And so that's why my company decided to have a dedicated team, and I applied for the job, and I've loved it ever since.
Excellent. Excellent. So what would you say would be some of the first steps an industrial brand should take to effectively integrate ESG principles into the business strategy?
I've had the pleasure, my company is actually based in Paris, and we were at the original Paris Climate Accords, and we've been reporting environmental metrics for over a decade.
So before it became like the hot topic.
And I have to say that I am very grateful for that. And the reason, to answer your question, is because it needs to come from the top.
Yes.
It has to come from the
agree with that.
CEO and the board. And if it doesn't come from the CEO and the board, it won't happen.
The other teams won't buy in. All the employees won't buy in if they don't see that upper management really is on board with this, is passionate about doing it.
Yeah, we relaunched our business strategy a couple of years ago, and running our core business practices is part of the strategy, but differentiating because of environmental sustainability and ESG principles was the other part. And it's on repeat mode to achieve our strategy, but it comes from the top. Our top executives in the company are compensated on environmental, social, and governance incentives.
Okay.
It's part of their bonus structure. So I think the first step is it has to come genuinely from the top. And anytime we hear our CEO speak, he is talking to our investors, our markets, always about this. This is a cornerstone of his public speaking and a cornerstone of his internal speaking. So I think that's the first thing. And then the second thing is you need to, environmental sustainability is so broad, ESG is so broad, you have to pick where is it material for your business, because it's not going to be everywhere.
That's a very good point, because otherwise it could be overwhelming for a company. But if you do exactly what you say, it makes it a little bit easier for them to zero in on what they should be doing and how to do it.
Exactly. And you
Yeah.
pick a few areas of
Yeah.
where you're going to focus. And so that's this materiality assessment to say, all right, we're going to play here.
Mhm.
And then the third thing is, you're going to play here. What are your goals and targets here?
Yeah.
And in my company, and I think that this is not abnormal for any company, every company needs kilowatt hours to
Mhm.
run its buildings
Yeah.
and work. And you need kilowatt hours to power your devices. It's everywhere. So
Yes.
kilowatt hours is a common thing to measure. And the other thing we look at is the fuel that goes into our buildings for heating and cooling,
Okay.
called natural
Yeah.
gas,
Mhm.
and also the fuel that goes into our fleet to deliver materials to our customers. So we've said at my company, we're a distributor. We buy things from strategic suppliers and we sell things to customers. That's what a distributor does. Where environmental sustainability is important to us, it's the kilowatt hours, the natural gas, and the fuel going into our fleet. And those are the three big things that we spend time on to optimize, to reduce our carbon footprint.
That is wonderful. And that did give us some things to think about. And I love that. Pick those areas of your company that are most important, like you just mentioned, the three for yours, but then also set those goals. And we all know if you don't have goals out there, like where are you headed? What's the direction? And also, how do you know when you're succeeding? So it's great to have those goals there. Can you share, and I don't know if you have this, a success story where ESG initiatives led to operational improvements or cost savings in the industry sector?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to stick to those three
Good.
topics, right? Kilowatt hours,
You
heating and
know
cooling
those the
for
best,
buildings.
so stick to it.
Yeah. And one thing to add, one very important ruling that just got passed in the US
Mhm.
is by the Security and Exchange Commission, the SEC. So you mentioned tax benefits. That is the carrot. That is the reward you get for investing in renewable energy. It's the good things, the rewards you get for that.
Mhm.
But the Security and Exchange Commission just passed a ruling that companies that file with the SEC need to report their carbon footprint
Yeah.
from the kilowatt hours they consume, from the natural gas that heats their buildings, from the fuel that goes in their fleets. That's called something called Scope 1 and Scope 2 carbon reporting. So it's coming up here. Very soon, companies that follow the SEC have to report their Scope 1 and 2 carbon. And therefore, companies are going to need, by the rule, to have ESG people to report their carbon footprint, and they have to set goals.
Yes.
And so this is why I'm grateful to be a company that has been doing this since 2010.
Yeah.
And
It's-
I feel like we are differentiating ourselves from our competition
Mhm.
because we know how to do this.
Mhm.
So back to the success stories.
And also because your company's been doing it because it was a top priority of theirs from the beginning. Because I know the one thing that always makes me nervous is I don't want people saying, oh, yes, our ESG initiatives, if they don't truly believe in it. Some people, I've heard people say, oh, we're going to use it as a marketing tactic. That's not going to work. It's got to come from the heart. And it sounds like with your company, it is because top management is already implementing it and believe in it.
Yeah, it's going to come from the heart and it's going to deliver tangible results.
Yeah.
It has to make good business sense.
Yeah.
So we don't just go rip out an HVAC from our buildings and put in a heat pump if it doesn't have a payback, a financial payback. So what I want to share are three stories that had a very real financial payback.
Yeah.
And it saved in our environmental carbon footprint.
Okay.
And so I'll give you three stories.
Great.
The first one, I never cared about HVAC. I have to be honest. I'm an engineer, but I was more of a industrial engineer. So I'm all about process efficiency. And when I think about HVAC, it's like the heating and the cooling. Yeah, as long as it works,
Yeah.
good. But you have to maintain this HVAC. And by the way, if HVAC's over 10 years old, it is sucking natural gas and kilowatt hours, and it's breaking down a lot, and you're paying for maintenance. So we found a big building in our footprint. It's 170,000 square feet. This is a big distribution center.
Yes.
A lot of inventory. And we said, why are you sucking in so much natural gas in kilowatt hours? And we found out the HVAC is 30 years old. It breaks all the time. It's cooling during the weekends when no one's there.
Yeah.
It's causing people to be either really cold or really hot, and the employees are very upset about it.
Yeah.
So we said, all right, let's have a look at that. And by the way, those incentives you talked about, there are real tax incentives to upgrade your HVAC. We're getting a $30,000 rebate to upgrade our HVAC.
Excellent.
We're spending $200,000 a year. We spend on utility costs for this building, $200,000 a year. And so now we're upgrading the HVAC with the rebate, and we expect the payback to be in 2 to 3 years.
Oh, excellent.
We're going to save $20,000 to $30,000 a year on our utility costs. Our employees will be happier because they're not too hot, not too cold.
It'll be more even keeled. Yep.
And in our carbon footprint is going to go down by also 10 or 20%. So it's such a win.
Wow.
And before, people like, who cares about the HVAC? So that is a real financial return for us.
And those kind of numbers, that makes people want to pay attention.
Absolutely. When we presented the return on investment to the region president, they said, sign me up, go faster, the better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's one story. And then another story is just simple lighting.
Okay.
People, our company right now in the US is 60% LED.
Wow.
Which is efficient lighting.
Yes.
And only 30% sensors. And you go to a branch and you see the light on outside during the day. And you're like, why is that happening? So we launched an initiative to do 100% LED and controls in 2024.
Okay.
There's a real payback of 1 to 2 years with this stuff. Leaving lights on costs money and it impacts your carbon footprint. It's a low-hanging fruit. And yes, we think we've been doing LED for decades and decades. We are not there.
Yeah.
You look at a city at night, it's all lit up.
Oh, it is
24/7. And it's not needed per se. The offices no one's in there. So having occupancy sensors. So we see a payback of lighting and occupancy sensors. We see a payback 1 to 2 years, easy. So
and you see that all the time. You always go by buildings where lights are left on, no one's in the building. There's really no reason. I know some people like to leave on the lights because they think it protects the building, but you also have an alarm system. So why do you have to keep the lights on?
Exactly. Or maybe you have a timer where that goes on and off, but paying attention to your lighting is a direct correlation to the money, and it's a direct correlation to your carbon footprint. And then the third example I have for you is if you deliver materials to customers, and it's very easy to just not pay attention to the routes. So this one's going here, that one's going there. They're going there multiple times a day. The truck's half full. And we did a deliberate effort in a certain market to optimize our routes and pilot an EV, an electric vehicle product delivery vehicle. And it's worked out extremely well. We saved millions of dollars on fuel because fuel is expensive in this market. And we're getting some awesome advertising driving around a really beautiful product delivery van that has marketed back to marketing.
Yeah.
We're proud to deliver products with 0 tailpipe emissions. And that is driving around all around this market all day long. 250-mile range. So people are afraid of the charge anxiety. They're going to run out of juice. But these vans have come a long way. And we really made a lot of strides with our electrification of fleet, as well as just optimizing our routes and not consuming so much fuel.
And then, of course, it's also more efficient. So people are probably getting their deliveries sooner and on time because you're doing such direct routes for the deliveries.
Absolutely. We're more efficient and with the routes. And if people don't need it, like back to Amazon's a big distributor and they optimize their routes, and they also ask a customer, if you want to save a little bit of money, you can get it on Tuesday instead of Monday. Those
Right.
types of things they add up when you're
Yes.
shipping. We do 5 million orders a
Yeah.
year, if not more. It's like the quantities of shipping. You got to pay attention to the little day-to-day deliveries.
Because it adds up, just like we were just talking about the light. If you think about just leaving a light on at your house outside, you're like, oh, really, how much would I save? But when you're talking about these large corporations and you have offices all over the world, like you said, these little things of turning off lights in every single one of those, and maybe in several different spots, would save you a lot of money.
Absolutely. Look at your utility bill. We study utility bills across 500 facilities. And you could just see the money, the hundreds of thousands of dollars to power these buildings. And we're a distributor. If you're a manufacturer
Yeah.
with equipment that's running all the time, this energy consumption is a big deal from a money standpoint, not just an environmental standpoint.
Yeah, I know a lot of the manufacturers that I'm working with right now, it's all about the AI tools for that predictive and preventative so that they can monitor those machines and understand when are they going to break down or when parts need to be replaced. Not that they break down, they're out of commission. They got to try to start up another piece of equipment, or the labor just sits there. No one has anything to do. It makes it more efficient, but also, like you said, there's equipment coming out with ESG built into it. So it is more efficient, and it might be going on a different type of fuel than what it initially did. And it helps with the ESGs there.
Yeah, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about renewables,
Yes.
because we need electricity now, right?
Mhm.
Let's face it, we're not going back to cave time where we are in our journey as humanity and as a planet. We're going to keep needing. Everyone has a
Yeah.
phone, right, that needs to be powered, and so electrifying heat with heat pumps, electrifying our fleet
Mhm.
with vehicles, it's happening. So we need renewable sources to electrify, to power up these facilities. And that's one thing as a company, that's one our top priority is. I want 100% green kilowatt hours. So
Wow.
wherever we're consuming electricity, I want it to come from a community solar farm.
Mhm.
I want it to come from solar on the roof. I want it to come from a utility grid that has a high percentage of renewables. So we are investing in renewables heavily here.
When do you think your company could get to 100%?
Yeah, there are tools out there where we could get to 100% today if we wanted. There's something called renewable energy certificates. Many big companies buy them. And what's nice about those is you're actually investing in the renewable
Okay.
industry. Okay,
Okay.
so you can buy a megawatt hour of kilowatts from a renewable source, and you could buy them overnight, and then you can sell
Okay.
it. We're doing it strategically where we buy them when needed, but we really want to do it organically by
Mhm.
investing in local community solar farms, which are popping up everywhere
Everywhere.
because
Yes.
of the Inflation Reduction Act that you alluded to at the beginning of this call.
Yeah.
They're popping up everywhere. We lease our buildings. We found some fantastic landlords that are big. They own thousands of buildings and they have environmental goals like we do.
Yeah. Good.
And so they have come to us to say, hey, we have an option where we're going to put solar on the roof we own, and we want to offer you those green kilowatt hours. And we're like, yes, we'll take
Yes.
them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I love seeing property owners latch
Mhm.
on to the Inflation Reduction Act, the tax incentives, and then partnering with tenants that also
I
care
can
about the
use it.
environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and that's a real game changer. Now, we're not seeing that everywhere, but we
No.
are seeing it with several, and we're trying to latch on to those early adopters because we're all in this together. You can't solve it as one company in this planet.
No.
There's a whole supply chain that has to cooperate. And so partnering with strategic suppliers and customers and landlords and tenants, it's all interrelated. And so we're latching on to people and partners that align to our environmental sustainability goals.
Well,
In
that's
fact,
what I was hoping. What we're going to get out of this podcast is because I was amazed by your company and I'm amazed at what you're doing within the company. And if we could get it out in this podcast to other listeners, hopefully they'll follow suit. Because like you said, it can't just be one company. It has to be all of us working together and setting up these initiatives within our own companies. That's really going to make a huge difference in our world. And that's what hopefully you're going to bring to us. Now, one of the issues that I know some companies have is you as a company, you set up this ESG, but how do you get your employees and your customers? Because like you were just talking about this collaborative, getting the property owners to work with other companies. How do you get everybody together and on board with these ESG initiatives and reaching these goals?
so I work in the US for a global company. So I'm responsible for getting in the hearts and minds of 7,000 people about in the US across 500 branches. And 2 years ago, we started an employee resource group. And it was meant to pick 30 people coast to coast that raised their hand or that we solicited that because we knew they were passionate about the planet.
Mhm.
And we get together, at the time we were getting together every month. And
So they're your advocates, basically.
there are advocates, there are change agents, and they are
Okay.
volunteers.
Excellent.
So we formed this advocacy group, and we have a lot of fun together because we all care about the planet. They're really, now that I'm full time in ESG, they are my advisors, my bottom up, I call it the bottom up, feet on the street advisors.
Mhm.
And then I also have top down advisors where every month I'm accountable to say, here's what we're doing to improve our carbon footprint. And so, top down, bottoms up, we meet in the middle to drive enterprise wide change.
Wow.
And one of the things we are sponsoring in 2023, we had 3 webinars. They
Mhm.
might have had 50 to 100 people come to them. Okay, they were good.
Yeah.
2024, we decided to pick up the pace, and now we're having 8. So we take a little time off in the summer and the holidays, but we're having 8 webinars. And the participation of these webinars, I've hit over 400.
Oh,
Now they're
Nice.
between, they're
excellent.
between 200, 300, 400. I'm trying to get to the 500 mark.
And there's nothing mandating these people to attend these webinars, correct?
Nope, they're just coming. And you know what we're doing
Excellent.
is we're making some cute names for them. Like next month is Lighting is Exciting. The following month is It's Heating Up, a chill chat on HVAC, and Sunny Solutions, renewable energy and battery storage. So we're coming up with these cute names.
Yeah.
And the other thing is we're advertising these through this is Earth Day month, by the way. So April 22nd is Earth Day. Our CEO of the USA sent out a company-wide email with the webinar link in it,
Mhm.
asking our employees to take advantage of the 2 company paid days off to go volunteer to help the planet. And I couldn't have been happier reading that email from him
Yeah.
because it shows that top-down support. And the webinar,
Exactly. And it
yeah.
shows top down, but it's not just talking about your company. He's saying, hey, I strongly believe in this and go out and help other organizations with this.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
have 20 events planned for Earth Day in the month of April 2024.
Wow.
Coast to coast, and some of them are with customers, and some of them are with the community, and some of them are at our own facilities cleaning up.
Again, reinforcing that real passion for the topic.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
so the webinars, I'm chalking them up as a good way to get the word out without making it mandatory.
Mhm.
On the flip side, we did do some mandatory work. Safety training is mandatory. Safety first,
Oh,
that is
yeah.
part of ESG. That has to be the cornerstone of everything.
Yeah.
You got to keep your people safe. But we have trained on climate school. So we invested in a climate school that we asked everyone at the company to take. And it's really, why are we talking about carbon? That
Mhm.
was the gist of the climate school. And we just, hey, take an hour of your life and learn about it. And it's really engaging training. If you believe in climate change or you don't, our
Mhm.
answer was, this is why people are talking about carbon. And it's our job to just teach you that. And
Yeah.
we care about this deeply. So we did make a little bit of training mandatory, but we are careful about what we make mandatory because, especially in America, when you tell someone to do something because you have to, you get the "I'm not doing that" kind of response. So we're doing a balance of optional as well as mandatory, not abusing our mandatory training.
I think that also makes an employee, I think whenever you can make your decision on your own to attend something, you also pay more attention because you want to be there. It's not like you're being told to be there. And those people who go, I would think they would use it in their jobs within your company, but they're also, it's that ripple effect. It'll ripple out. They'll do it in their homes, or they might talk to somebody else, or like yours, I believe you said it was the CEO, when they take those 2 days, their Earth days off, and go work for somebody else, it helps just permeate everything you're teaching out there into the world.
And team building. This
Yeah.
stuff can be fun for teams and to get out of the office for a half day
Yeah.
and get some fresh air and feel good about what you did today. So I just actually an hour ago, we had our Earth Day webinar. We copied earthday.org. It's about plastic awareness. 3 very passionate employees came and spoke about what they do
Oh,
to help the
nice.
planet. And then I always have a supplier partner join as a guest speaker. And I had the vice president of sustainability from a strategic supplier join us and talk about what is their company doing
Right.
around plastics and what are they doing to improve their environmental footprint. It's not just my distribution company, it's the larger supply chain at hand. So we go into these webinars with these suppliers to help us with the messaging.
And that just comes down to where you just said you had 4 different people on that webinar. People resonate with different individuals. They hear their story. That's what they're going to connect with. And then even if they're on the fence, whether they would do it, as soon as they find some kind of commonality, then they're going to implement it themselves.
That's the hope.
Yes.
I've been doing enterprise-wide change management my whole career, whether it
Yeah.
be in the digital space, in the finance space, simplification space, and now environmental sustainability and diversity. So I've been doing that my whole career, and I love it because I
Yeah.
love seeing change happen with masses of people. And I always start with the early adopters.
Mhm.
Always start with because there's a change management curve out there, and you don't start with the laggards and the people that just aren't ever going to change your mind. Start with the people that naturally go with this, and then you organize that people and create this coalition, and then you have discipline to keep telling the stories. Back to
Yes.
those success stories you asked about earlier, we have to keep telling those success
Yes.
stories so that it can't just be one branch out of the 500 paying attention to their HVAC. It
Yeah.
has to be all of the branches.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we keep telling those stories, and peers influence peers.
Yes.
And that's the approach we take.
Jackie, I want to thank you very much for your time. I found this to be extremely informative, and it did give actionable tips for companies out there that they can try to implement so that they can be as successful as you and your company. So thank you very much for your time today.
Absolutely. I'll talk about this subject anytime.
We'll have to have you back on because I don't think this subject is going away. At least I think you and I both agree. We don't want it to go away. We want more and more people to get involved and really just feel it from their heart on why they're doing it is the key.
I agree. Thanks, Donna. It's my pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the World Innovators B2B Marketing Excellence podcast. If you'd like to be updated when new episodes come out, don't forget to subscribe. Also, check out our social media accounts to stay up to date on B2B marketing trends.